What's up, guys? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. I'm Turbo John, and today we're going to look at installing our T&D shaft rocker arms. This is going to be pretty cool. Check it out, guys. Comment, like, and subscribe. If y'all want to support the channel, go to turbojohnracing.com. Grab yourself some hats and t-shirts. Thanks. All right, boys, we got a big block Chevrolet here, 532 cubic inches, steel block, aluminum rods, I think Callie's crankshaft, AFR 357 heads, EFI 118 millimeter turbo. I got this motor from my buddy Jerry down in Florida. It was nitrous. We took nitrous cam out, basically freshened it up, and we put it back together. He had regular stud mount rockers on these things. And so far, we haven't had an issue. We've been living at 8,000 RPM and not been an issue, but we know shaft rocker arms are better. We linked up with T&D. Sheldon up there got us hooked up. They have a couple different styles of rocker arms, and these are the steel ones. They have aluminum and steel, and you know, he was telling me for what we're doing, of course, they're a little heavier, but they are more long-term duty. Now, we say that, you know, aluminum has a shelf life, and that's what he was saying. The aluminum rockers and any rocker, any aluminum rod, any rocker, you know, they're going to fatigue. And we've not had any issues out of our small block Chevrolet, and that's what he was kind of joking around. And there's some blue ones in the box in there because they're being mixed matched. Those blue ones down in there, there's a few up there. I think we got 4 of them. There's some back there. He said those things were from like 1990. So I was like, man, well, they're from 1990. They're pretty good. So, you know, and it depends. There's a lot of things that make a rocker fail, right? You got improper oiling. You've got things that happen, you know, if you have coil bind, if you're floating the valves, that's going to put a lot of extra stress on it. Exhaust valves are the ones that are under the most severe pressure, because if you think about it, when the exhaust valve starts cracking open, the exhaust valve starts cracking open, and as the cylinder is going down, so the cylinder is getting blown down, the piston is going down, and that's why you hear, like on blower cars and nitrous cars, you'll hear a little chirp. Some of them chirp, they sound like crickets in the exhaust. That's, I believe, from high compression and from the exhaust valve opening early. There's a lot of pressure getting that thing open. Something I didn't think about is on the intake side. He said they have a lot of people that they'll run aluminum ones on the intake and steel on the exhaust, because actually on the intake side, you're not going against that cylinder pressure, right? And especially if you have boost, or, you know, if you have a blower, or if you have a turbo application, then, you know, actually that's making the valve open easier. So there's a little bit less spring pressure on it, I guess, or valve action. But we decided to go ahead and get steel on both the intake and exhaust. I'm holding in my hand right now. This is an exhaust side, and they've got these things pre-assembled. These things are awesome, man. This is AFR, and they are specific for whatever head you have. There might be a little bit of interchangeability, but usually you don't want to do that. So you want to get the ones that are for yours. They got the nice little, they got the markings on them so you can tell which is which. But on these, on Big Block Chevrolet, it's pretty easy. All the exhausts are offset to the left. You see the way these are, it would be nice if they were all on one stand, but the way the Big Block Chevrolet is, that's just not possible. It's just not capable of doing that. So this is the next best thing. All of the intake ones actually are on a stand. So they're on this single stand here. And so all the intake ones, if you look at it, so it's left, right, left, right. So almost all of them are, so you've only got 4 that have this offset on the right. And that's just the way the valve angle is on the heads, the way the valves are set. So essentially, when you get this on there, this is all machine one stand. Really nice piece, man. This is really cool. And so essentially what happens, the exhaust one now goes here. You bolt it down to the head first, and you see they're at different heights. And that's the reason, you know, they couldn't make it one stand. I imagine, I guess they could, but it would be very problematic. Then once everything is done, then you bolt this one together here. And so that's how they end up going. The benefit of having all these tied together is now this one is helping support this one, and so on, all the way down. And then even these individual ones, when they bolt to this stand, now they get help from this stand as well. If this was just sitting off in free flowing by itself, then essentially all the pressure is on that one that one normal stud there. And one of the things that has scared me to death about big block Chevrolet is you see it all the time. The threads get pulled out. They have problems in the heads. And I don't know necessarily what the exact issue is. Maybe a ton of spring pressure, or maybe the aluminum just gets weak and you end up having to helicoil them. So that's my big fear. So I'm gonna go ahead and what we gotta do today, we gotta measure push rods. And it comes with, this is a whole kit. It comes with everything. It comes with a whole, it comes with a stand, it comes with bolts. This is the checker, how you check your geometry. It's got all the instructions. There's some good videos on YouTube as well on how to set this up. It comes with everything you need. So first thing we gotta do, it comes with shims if you need to shim this up. If there is a problem, if you have, if this thing, I was reading through the instructions, and if this thing, if it looks like you need to machine down the actual stand, they recommend not doing that. They want you to call them because you don't want to machine this down and make it weaker. So I don't know what the solution would be at that point. That would be if like the valve is sticking way up, like if you had lash caps on it and it was way out of, adjustment. And what we'll do, basically, we got to take this whole, I'm going to do this side over here. We're going to take this valve cover off. We got to take all the rock arms off of it. We'll bolt all that stuff on, and then we'll check. We'll see what we got for push rod length. If we get lucky and my push rods line up, I'm going to be ecstatic. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but that's what we're hoping for. If the push rods are the correct length, then we're going to go ahead and put these on right now. If they are not the correct length, then we'll measure it all up, get the push rods ordered the correct length, and if they get here by the weekend, we'll have these put on and installed, and if not, then we'll be racing with these at least one more weekend. So hang on, let's go ahead and pull this valve cover off. All right, guys, so here is the normal stud mount rockers. We do have the stud girdle across the top, but it's just one of those things. The shafts are definitely 100% going to be better. Like I was saying, this does tie them together, but it's not the same. So we do have stud girdles, but we're going to make sure we're being very careful when we take these apart. Maybe we'll get lucky, guys. Maybe we'll get lucky. We're fixing to find out in just a minute. Hang on. Let's go ahead and take these off. And then once I get these off, we'll start the assembly and we'll look at everything and see how it's lining up. Hang on. All right, guys, rocker arms are off and the push rods are out. I'm being very careful on how I organize this over here. So I should be able to get them all back on easily. The intake is a lot longer than the exhaust. You can see the difference in the length there. So it's significant. I did this off. All the threads look pretty good from what I can tell. The exhaust one is the long bolt. The intake is the short one. It goes actually down into the runner. I don't know which one normally breaks off. I would probably say it's the one that's on the exhaust side. See how it's got a pedestal up. So since the pedestal is up higher, and then this kind of goes into it as well, I bet that's why it's weaker. And if you put a short bolt in it, or stud, then it might be significant. So it looks like the short ones go into the intake side. So now we're going to take this. We've already got this off, or not off. We didn't need to do anything. I guess I need to take all the rockers off. But then basically what we'll do is we'll bolt this down on here. And if you notice, these are machined up. So hopefully we do not have to do anything. Oh yeah, it looks like it clears. It looks like it clears everything. So I've seen some people talk about on the stands, like on the heads, like you have to modify it to make it so that, or grind the head or grind the stand. But this one looks like it clears everywhere. So yeah. So just eyeballing it without knocking it down there, which it's not even lined up. But the height, we'll look at that. Hold on a second. So if that's lined up, then we're good. It is rocking a little bit. Okay, let's see. We might have to grind the head a little bit. Hold on, let me get the rockers off of it real quick. We'll be right back. All right, guys. So we got the rockers off, and this stand is machined absolutely perfect. And when I say perfect, I mean perfect. You can see it's, what is it hitting? It's hitting that little spot on the head right there, but it doesn't matter because it's all lined up. So all that actually is going to go up just a tad. So that lines up exactly where it's supposed to be. I think, no, I might have to grind that little spot on the head right there. This one little spot right here, seeing that somebody's already clearanced it there for something. I might have had shaft rockers before, but they didn't quite get enough on this one. So we got to clearance that just a little bit more, and then we'll be able to bolt this on. All right, guys, this is not a big deal. I know a lot of times people think this is a big deal when you have to modify something a little bit, or you have to modify something. Ideally, you know, it would fit perfect, but every casting is a little bit different. And these are set up for these castings, but you can see that might have been ground like that from the factory. I don't know. Or it might have been for another set of shaft rockers, but not a big deal. Some people would take this motor completely apart. Of course, I'm not going to do that. What I did is I got a Dremel with the little cutoff wheel, and I just used it to finely sand it, essentially. And you see there's a little bit of dust in there. It's aluminum dust. All the holes going back into the motor are fine. They're all covered. These are blind holes. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this off carefully. Most of the dust is right there in that. Some people will use tape. You can kind of put a bunch of tape in there. That's fine. There's a couple ways you can do this. Some people will have a shop vac running right here while you're grinding. So if you got two people, that's fine. That's actually a really good way. I've done it like that before. But the thing you do not want to do, in my opinion, you do not want to use like the aluminum bit, the one that is real sharp, and it gives you a lot of chunks. It gives you big chunks. This is fine material. I'm pretty confident I'm gonna be able to get like 99% of it out of the head, and it's not going to go into the engine. But if it does, if a few of those particles go through, that will go right through the oil pump, no issue, for the most part, because it's so fine, and then it'll get caught in the filter. If you have the bigger chunks, if you have the ones that, like if you're porting a set of heads, those shards of aluminum, they're bigger. So when they go through the oil pump, if any gets down in there, which hopefully they won't, but if they did, then it would probably be more prone to damage the oil pump. On a side note, I mean, the opposite side of that, which some people say they'd rather have bigger chunks because it's easier to see it and it's easier to get it out. So either way, not a big deal though. It's okay, guys. This is not a surgeon. It's not a clean room. It's not that big a deal. I think it'll be okay. So we're going to carefully clean all this up real good, get my brake clean it all down, absorb, and all of it should be caught like right here in this area for the most part. You can see that's what it is. It's caught right here, and then down there, there's none. There's none up here. So I think it'll be okay. All right, let's see if we got it all. I think I clearanced it enough. I'm going to carefully take this off, and I'm going to see if it clearanced it. If I didn't clearance it enough, then we'll put all this back together, and then we'll try again. Hang on. All right, boys. Well, we are getting closer. The bar went on fine. Got plenty of clearance there now. The fit on these is unbelievable. Unbelievable the way it is. Look how tight this is. And so that is where you get your strength from. The exhaust stand is separated, but by the time it's all bolted on, and then you get this bolt, this little teeny bolt in here, and that thing's never moving. It is never moving. I've seen people weld them together once they get them on the head and mocked up, and then they'll weld them. I don't know if that's necessary with these. I mean, you know, if it was the Sportsman series where you had just a little piece of thin sheet metal attaching these, then probably be a good idea to weld them. But there's no way this stand is going to rotate, and that's one of the things that you're scared about, right? Like when you have a normal one, can it rock? Because you don't have any type of guide plate because the rocker is on that shaft. So they make a tool, like I was saying, they've got the little tool in the kit to where you can thoroughly check the angle of these. And so you got two options. The stand can go up higher. You can shim it up higher if you need to, or if you need to machine it, you can go down. Now, what you're looking at, what you're trying to see here is if the rocker arm is on the intake side of the valve. That's what you want. And it's going to sweep across the valve, and then this side, so it should sweep to the middle and then go back, and then it would come up. So you could use that tool, but in order to use that little tool they got, you got to take the spring off of it. And we'll throw that in the box. And, you know, I've set some of these up before. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the way I do it. It's real simple. Hang on, let me show you. Well, what I'm going to do, of course, there's no push rods in yet. We don't know if we got the correct length. So a lot of times you'll see people, they'll put these on. Now all this is just barely snugged up. None of it's torqued down. It's all snug though. So what I'm trying to do is I need to see where this tip is, the roller on this, where it's actually at on the valve. And so take a marker, and a lot of people say, okay, well, you got to run it through the cycle, and that's the best way. But if you hold that down, and while it's on there, you just spin, put a little bit of pressure, and spin that roller. We want this on the intake side of the valve just a little bit. There you go. That one looks pretty good. Let's see if this one is the same. So just put it on there and spin it, and then pick it up. Boom, that one is a little closer to the center, not by much, but I think this is good. So when that point, let's see if I can zoom in. See, it's just a little bit on the intake side. You can see right where the roller is riding on that valve. So when you actually get the right push rods in it, then what'll happen is, like I was saying, it'll sweep over. Actually, those are in the exact same spot almost. So that's the intake, and that's the exhaust. Well, the exhaust is probably a little bit closer to the middle. But you know, and I've got shims. So, but if I put a shim under this one, then that's going to move it away. So we may, let's see, we may end up putting a shim on that. No, I think that's actually pretty close, though, guys. I think I'm pretty happy with it. That one right there, maybe. Let's put a shim under. We're gonna put a shim under. Let's see, the middle. That's the middle. Let's put a shim under the intake side, and then this has got adjustment in there. See how that hole is slotted? So that one you can do. Let's put a shim. I'm gonna take this bar back off, and I'm gonna put one of their machine shims under the intake rockers and see if that moves it. No, let's do the exhaust. Let's do the exhaust. Let's see where it moves it. Let's put a shim under the exhaust and see if we can see where it moves that one. But man, right there, I mean, honestly, no shim. Let's just see what we got. Hang on. All right, guys, so in the kit, you get 2 shims. Actually, you get 2 sizes. It's not accurate, 2 shims. You get 16 of each of these. The thicker one is 80 thousandths, and the thin one is 40. So I went ahead and put the thick one under it because I wanted to make a big change. I wanted to see what it did. So it was in the middle. And so now, get out of the way so you can kind of see. So now you can see with 80 thousandths on it, it pushes it closer to the exhaust side. So that is not the way we want to go. So what we want to do, we could shim that one up if we wanted to get it closer to the middle. But the reason they give you these is because if you have a valve job done, and the valve job and the valve comes up in the head significantly, you know, 10 or 20 thousandths might not make enough a difference to have to do shims. But if it comes up significantly, or if you have lash caps, if you have things that alters the valve height, if you put a longer valve in it so that you can get a higher lift spring in it, so the installed height is different, all of those things change it. The valve pocket, the actual seat, if it is sinking into the head or when they machine it in there, all that stuff changes. And you know, when you're setting up springs, if you ever set up springs, you have to always shim under the springs to get the installed height right. That's because the valve constantly kind of goes up and down, you know, depending on valve job and all those things that we just talked about. All right, guys, we're almost there. This is a time-consuming process, guys, so you got to take your time. You got to make sure it's right. So that's what we're doing. So we just put this back on, and so I just redid it again. And you see now we're back closer to the middle, and that's with no shim under there. So now we got to get push rod length, and maybe we'll get lucky and the ones we got will work, or maybe at least half of them will work, because remember, one of them is a lot longer than the other. So we use 3/8, 135 wall. is what we use for mine. Some people would probably use a 7/16. You know, the bigger push rod you can get, the better. That hole down there, it probably could take a 7/16. Don't know if it can go much bigger than that. That's probably gonna be pretty close on the head. But you know, a little bit of clearance there, you would have to machine it out some. I don't know what the process is. This is my first time with a big block Chevrolet. So one thing to be careful of when you're setting these. So the way you set the height here, so these things, notice there's no holes up here. So this is an internal oiling design. Basically, oil comes up through the push rod, and then there's a machined groove in here. That machined groove puts oil to the bearings, so it's force fed, which that helps bearing life tremendously. It's not just splash oiling. And then there's a hole that comes up through the rocker, and then under the bottom side of the rocker is where the hole is, I assume. Let's look and see if we can see it in this rocker arm over here. Yep, there you go. So it comes out there. So it goes through the bearings first, and then it comes out splashing, shoots out there, lubricates the tip and the spring. Very important. It's a good oiling system. So setting these. So since the oil comes through here, in most push rods, they're just, or most rockers, there's a hole up here at the top and it just comes out and it runs down the rocker. So you don't really have to worry about anything. But the way these are, since you have that, in the adjuster, there's actually, I've already got this one loose, and see how that one is way up compared to that one right there, as far as the thread up from the nut. And that's because this one is bottomed out in the top of the rocker. And you can't run it like that, because if you run it like that, then of course you don't have any adjustment. The way you do this, the way you want to do it, so you got your Allen wrench, 3/16. So you come up, so that is backed out. That is all the way up in top. That is not tight. And so this is, the actual adjuster is all the way up in the rocker. And so you want to go one turn down from there. And so you go a half a turn, one turn. That's where you want to set your push rods and then adjust that. But they say you can go one turn from either way. So you got two turns. So if we wanted to, if the push rod, if you needed to go all the way down to one turn that way, that would be fine. I just did a little bit of experiment with some WD-40. This is now 3 turns completely out. 3 turns completely out, it will continue to oil. When you get to 4 turns out though, no oil comes out of this little hole under here. So they recommend a maximum of, they want you to set it, they want you to start at 1 turn out from bottomed out. So bottom this thing all the way out, turn it 1 turn out, and that's where you set your push rods at. And then you adjust it from there, you adjust your lash. But if you do need to, you know, in an emergency situation, you know, go out just a tad farther or all the way in even, it will still oil as long as you don't exceed 3. On this particular rocker, that's not what they recommend. So 2 turns out maximum from all the way in. All right, guys, so the push rods definitely are not going to work. You see they're about that much too tall, probably a 1/4 inch. Half inch. What I'll do is I'll take my dial caliper and I'll get in there and I'll actually get it kind of close. This is an old push rod checker that is old and was rusty, but we were able to get it kind of to work. Got a big 12-inch long dial caliper, or caliper, not a dial caliper. It's a, I guess, I don't know what it is. It's one of the little calipers, and we'll be able to measure it. So right now, the length of the push rods that we have on the exhaust side, these are 8/750. And on the, no, that's the intake side. And then the exhaust is 955. So let's see what we need. Probably 1/4 inch shorter on both of those. So let's use this real fast, and then we'll see what we got to have, and then see if we can get them in a couple days. It's in there. So this is just finger tight, everything. That thing is so close right there. And I do have these right. The instructions are here. So this is cylinder number 2, so it needs a right hand offset. And it makes sense, because if it had a left-hand offset, it would push it over the other way. So I'm gonna just verify that I'm in the actual lifter. And so got to be in the center of the lifter. So I'm gonna take the rocker arms back off, verify we're in the center there, and then we will stick it back on, and that's the measurement. But I think I've got it in there, I'm pretty sure. So that right there is set. A bit of lash, that's probably 10 or 12, 15 thousandths, so 1 turn. And then I'll probably air whatever I'm gonna measure. This is the caliper I'm gonna use up here. and then we'll air on the, they usually come in 50 thousandths increments. So we'll air a little bit on the short side. Hang on. All right, guys. So the exhaust one, this is my caliper that I was talking about. So 8450 is about the ideal stock one, but that was an 8750, 135 watt. So it was about 300 thousandths shorter. So I was close on my guesstimate. I thought it was a little bit off. So we just put that over there. So let's do that one. Now let's do, oh, that's the intake. Oh, I done messed up, look. That's on the intake side, not the exhaust side. So we'll make sure we're right there. Intake, and then the exhaust is going to be the longer one. Hang on. It's a few hour process, but take your time. It's about the measurements. It's about making sure that the push rods are in the actual lifters. It's about taking your time, making sure everything is correct. And they build these kits, and T&D did an awesome job. This thing is phenomenal. Here is the push rod length for the exhaust side, 9200. It was a 955, 9550. I'm sorry. So that's what we gotta get. So now we gotta find some push rods, and that right there will give us to where it's perfect with a little bit of lash, one turn out. There again, you gotta make sure you're at your one turn out there, because if you mess that measurement up, if it's all the way in, or if it's out too far, then that could be a problem. And once again, I appreciate T&D coming on board, helping out with the program this year. If y'all need some rocker arms, make sure you hit them up. Sheldon up there, he can take care of you. They got a lot of stuff in stock. All right, guys, so I went ahead and put the 40 thousandths shim back there behind the intake side, and we just fixed it on there and rolled it, and you can see now that is closer to the middle. It didn't move it a ton, but it did move it. We don't want to go much more than that, just because we don't. So that's going to be the exhaust, and that's pretty close to the middle. So what we'll do is, once we get our push rods, we'll actually run this through the motion. Obviously our little checker is not going to work, but we'll get it all set up, and then we'll spin the motor over, and then we'll see how wide our sweep pattern is. But I think that's pretty close, guys. I think that's going to work. All right, boys, movie magic. Actually, not movie magic. Summit Next Day Air. They had the push rods in stock, so we got the push rods. These are Manleys, like I was saying. Perfect. This is interesting. That one right there, I just got Chase to run it through the motion, and it's really close to the head right there. But when that moves, it actually goes all the way up to the top up there. So that push rod goes like this as it goes through its motion, and we're good to go. All right, guys, comment, like, and subscribe. T&D for the win, baby. That is a big difference. Wow, look at the difference. So one side's done, and we could actually put those under those short valve covers. We don't need the tall ones, so we may do that at some point, get the short ones back on it. That come on it when Jerry had it, we didn't have a girdle. But wow, look at the difference. Look at the difference. Wow, amazing.